make some noise for Tony Award winner Santino Fontana. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, this is your third convention.
Third convention.
Getting your footing in there. You enjoying the life so far?
I am. It's fascinating to me. I didn't know it even existed. So yeah.
Wow.
No.
Is this anybody's first convention out there? We got a couple first timers out there ourselves.
Thank you.
Now, obviously, a big role in your career, not on stage, would be Hans from Frozen.
Yes, which was 5 days of work.
Really?
Yes, of over 2.5 years. Yes.
That's crazy.
It's bizarre.
Now, obviously, transitioning from theater, Broadway to voiceover, where you're working 5 days over 2.5 years.
Alone.
Right, in a booth.
Most of the time alone.
I mean, obviously, that's got to be a change mentally. How do you prepare yourself for that?
Well, I've done a lot of audiobooks, and I've done a lot of voiceover, like commercial voiceover work. So you've all heard me before and other things. But so in that way, it's similar in that you're only limited by your imagination. And the great thing about Disney, and especially Jen Lee and Chris Buck, who were the co-directors, and Jen was also the writer, they gave you all the parameters you needed in order to then play and just give them options that they can then, take and edit to create the performance that they want. Yeah.
Now, were you a Disney fan growing up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, huge. Aladdin and, all those shows, those Alan Menken, Howard Ashman musicals that were from, those were all my childhood. Yeah.
I'm right in the same boat with you. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite? Let's see. Since Hans, they say he's a villain, but
he's the romantic hero.
He's the romantic hero
of the first half.
I like it. Of the first half,
yes.
I like it. Up
and
until
I'm holding on to that.
Do you have a favorite villain growing up?
Disney villain?
Yeah.
I don't. I like all. The first one of these I ever did was in Sacramento with Ken Page, the Oogie Boogie Man, and Jonathan Freeman, Jafar, and Richard White, Gaston. And I think probably Gaston and, also Ursula's really great.
Right.
But Jafar and Ursula, I think are pretty great.
I love that the ones that you named, also a Broadway background.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that's, and that's something that we are seeing a lot, especially Has Been Hotel, a lot of other, where Broadway theater folks are getting more into voice acting, animation. Do you find that to be the case yourself?
Yeah, I think that's also almost always been the case, right? Leia Salonga is a huge theater person. I just did a play with Judy Kuhn, who was the voice of Pocahontas. I think it goes back. Donna Murphy was Mother Gothel, and
Donna Murphy.
yeah. I think that's a huge. Frozen. Adina, Kristen Bell was in a Broadway show. Jonathan Groff's been obviously a bunch of Broadway shows. Josh Gad, Book of Mormon. I think it's because in theater, whereas on TV or in a movie, your audience is here most of the time.
Right.
But whereas in theater, we have to be able to speak to the person in the front row, but we also have to be able to communicate a thought or a feeling or a myriad of different things to the very back row. And the only way you can do that is through it coming through your voice. And so Jamie Roberts, who's a friend of mine, she cast the Frozen movie and was the big animation casting director for Disney for years. She said they always go to the theater people because they were the people that they found who were able to articulate a depth of emotion and thought in their voice, whereas oftentimes TV or film actors don't have to.
Right. You mentioned a Little Mermaid as being one of those.
Yeah.
Jodie Benson became Ariel because of.
She was in Crazy for You. Right. She was in
she was in Smile and.
Yep. She was in a bunch of Broadway shows. Exactly.
So it seems like that's you're right. That is the absolute trend. And unlike a lot of other Disney villains who met their fates at the end of the movie, Hans
still alive.
Still alive.
in prison, but still alive.
Did make an appearance in the Olaf holiday. Was it the holiday short?
Frozen Fever,
Frozen Fever.
and Frozen 2.
Right.
Yes.
So you never
Briefly.
know, right?
The door is open,
Well-
potentially. Who knows? You know, they're very good at storytelling. Like I said, it was 5 days of work over 2 days. And I've said this before, I feel like I was a sperm donor to a child who became president because I was involved at the beginning, but not that involved. They know what they're doing, and they know if they can find a way to use me in the next story, I'm sure they will.
Now you mentioned solo. So did you, when it came to Love Is an Open Door? Speaking of doors,
Yep.
Was that solo?
That was the only thing done with somebody.
Okay.
So I was doing Cinderella on Broadway. I flew on I did the matinee on a Sunday. I got on an airplane. I recorded Love Is an Open Door with Kristen Bell. She was 8 months pregnant. And got on a plane, went right back to preview for Cinderella on Broadway. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I mean, you're not kidding when you're saying like it is.
Yeah.
By the way, did anybody know Santino has been Prince Charming?
I was Prince Charming in Cinderella. Yes.
You've been on both sides of the spectrum.
I have. It was the year of the prince.
The
Yeah.
year of the Prince.
Yes.
So with that, we've talked about theater, we've talked about voiceover work, and you've done television.
Yep.
Do you have a preference between the mediums of entertainment?
I like keeping it. I like to keep spinning the wheel, So I was just recently on the Ryan Murphy show, Grotesquerie, with Niecy Nash and Courtney Vance and Leslie Manville and Travis Kelce, that was just on FX, playing a psychiatrist. We're waiting to hear if that comes back next year. I was also on a musical comedy TV show, and then I did a dark musical last fall off Broadway. I've done Stephen King audiobooks, and then I've done, rom-com audiobooks. I did the You audiobooks based on that, which is what that TV show is based on. I like to keep it mixed up, and concerts with orchestras if I can, Yeah, I like to keep it up,
Yeah,
keep it moving.
One thing that is on my bucket list that you have done, the 54 Below.
Oh, yeah.
The 54 Below
We could
shows.
get you a date at 54 Below. That would not be hard.
I'm not to perform, but to go and see some of the fantastic.
We could definitely get you in.
Okay.
I could get you a performance if you really wanted. I'm sure. I have friends with those
maybe.
people.
So you recently, a couple months ago, revisited, right?
Yeah, and Lily
and
Erica were both guests of mine. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So there's folks at this show,
Yes.
That you got to reconnect with here at Animate.
Yes.
So how does that go about doing those shows and then connecting? And is it just okay? Who do I want to do the show with?
That show in particular, the most recent concert I did in New York was at this club 54 Below, which is where Studio 54 used to be, which is also where my Broadway debut was when it became a theater, strangely enough. And below, they created this nightclub. And that show, I was taking all requests from people who were, before they bought when you bought a ticket, you made a request of 5 songs. And so I would call all of those songs together, and several times, there would be songs that are duets that I've sung, and one of them was from the Violet Hour, which was an album, concept album of a new musical that Erica and I sang a duet on. So I was like, I'm gonna text her and be like, do you wanna do this? And then the other one was something from Tootsie, which I was in with Lily, and so I said, do you wanna come and do this? So it just worked out. Random. Totally random.
That's I love that.
I know, it's cool.
I love the concept and then just having a Rolodex of talent in your phone. I mean,
Yeah.
That's
It's very cool to have such cool friends.
Right.
Yeah, it is. It's very cool.
Speaking
very
of it,
lucky.
then when you are on stage and you've got to work with a ton of great people. As you mentioned, Lily is amazing. Got to work Tony Shalhoub.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
Has there been a part where you're working with somebody who either is a famous on the celebrity outside of Broadway, or is so good that you have gotten caught up in watching their performance?
Yeah. And actually that Broadway show I did with Lily, there was an actor that you wouldn't necessarily know. You would know, well, you might, I don't know, but his name was Michael McGraw. There would be times, he passed away recently, but there would be times when he's very funny. He was very funny. I couldn't stop laughing at what he was doing, which wasn't helpful. I did a television show with J-Lo where I was impressed and kind of stunned by how busy she was and how prepared she was. And I remember being kind of like, how are you doing this? I don't know. She would finish filming. She had the leading role. She was always complete. She knew all of her lines and needed one take. Sometimes. I was like, how are you, what's going on? And then she would go to rehearsal for her, her concert tour. I just was kind of blown away by her. Yeah.
You mentioned J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez. Do you get starstruck at all when you're working with other people?
I did with her. I would
Okay,
say that.
right.
Yeah.
Was the starstruck more like, oh my gosh, this is a star, or oh my God, this work ethic is amazing? Because
Both. Both. Kind of the size of her life, but also to know how personable she was, and kind to me. So, yeah, yes, I would say so. Otherwise, I'm trying to think if there's other people like that have been. I met Martin Short, and I freaked out because I'm a huge fan of his. But otherwise, I try to just play it cool.
What are you a fan of?
The same stuff you are. The same people, the same favorite actors are my favorite actors. The same, and I'll get very excited about meeting them, but I try not. Maybe I'm just because I'm getting older. I try not to make them uncomfortable. Yeah.
I mentioned I brought you out here. Mentioned your Tony Award. So I'm going to ask, where do you keep it?
It is, when I lived in New York, it was in a closet because I didn't have much room. And now we moved to a house up north, and it's just in a room, on a shelf.
You got to do the old Richard Dreyfuss move.
What did he do?
He puts it in his fridge, all right?
His Oscar? It's in the fridge?
His Oscar is in his fridge, and when people come over and they say, hey,
where's the Oscar?
They say, I'm thirsty. And he's like, just help yourself in the fridge. And then, of course, they open up the fridge, and there is his Oscar staring at
not
them.
for me. Good for him, but not for me. F. Murray Abraham, who I did a reading of something with him, and he told us, and I think it's very well known, any play he does, he brings his Oscar with him and hides it in a different place on the set every day.
Okay.
Yeah. Also not for me. Good for them.
Move.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a move. So when did you realize? Was it a moment? Was it an era that you realized that acting, theater, was your passion?
When I was a kid, I was babysat a lot by my grandfather, who loved movies, and he would go to Blockbuster, which is like Netflix but a store for the children, and he would rent all the movies he loved, and then we would just watch them on repeat. And I loved the passion of storytelling and how passionate he was about it. And he had a very wide taste, so it was all different types of movies, and the power of being able to be, taken away to an imaginary place and yet reminded of what we have in common and united with the people you watched it with is something I'm always chasing, and I always will. Yeah.
I mean, that's. I love that. I love that it started with somebody else introducing you to the arts. I think that's very important to introduce people to the arts, young, impressionable people, because if not, then it kind of goes away, right?
Yes. I think especially, listen, I don't think storytelling's going anywhere. It keeps changing in its form, whether it's streaming or network television or live performance or film, whatever it is. But we all keep going after the same stuff because we all want to be reminded that we're not alone and we have so much in common.
Do you have a role, whether possibly on Broadway and theater, off Broadway, that you would like to revisit today? Like if there was to be a revival?
No, I don't. I had great. I had great experiences with so many of those parts, and I'm ready to find the next one. And I don't know what that is or what kind of thing that's going to be, and I'm open to it.
A question that on this stage today that I asked the has-been
I heard
group,
about this.
with Erica and Lily was, one of the big things on Broadway right now is bringing classic movies and giving them the Broadway treatment, whether it's Outsiders, Back to the Future, Mean Girls, of course, with Erica. Do you have a favorite movie that you would like to see get that Broadway treatment? That
I
musical
don't.
treatment?
I wish I did. I'm sorry. I don't. No, I did a reading recently of they're bringing a National Lampoon's Broadway Vacation musical to Broadway. I did a reading of that recently. I did. I know they're doing Night at the Museum. I received a script for that. I don't know. I don't. But I don't. I don't have any like movies that I think should be musicals right now.
Right. Right now. Maybe.
Right. I might change my mind by the time we're done.
We'll revisit this. You got to do something that is, speaking of but the absolute bucket list item, working with the Sesame Street folks, working
Yes,
with the
I did.
Muppets, with the Tabernacle Choir. Can you?
I did.
I mean, can you tell us about? Because
My career is so weird, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
insane. It's all over the place. J-Lo to Big Bird, to Idina Menzel. Yeah, no, it was great. I did a concert with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir with the Sesame Street Muppets. I don't know, and it was recorded. It was a
Right.
Christmas concert. They asked, and I was like, I guess. I was doing, it's funny. I was doing a workshop of a play with Olympia Dukakis, and I got the phone call while we were working on it, and I came into rehearsal, and they were like, what was that? And I was like, I just got asked to sing with the Muppets and the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. And she was like, you have to do it. I was like, I don't know, do I? She was like, you have to do this. Who gets to do that? And so, yeah, I did it, and it was great.
When you're singing to the Muppets, like, do you lose yourself in the magic and not even?
Yes,
Yeah,
100%. They're that good, yeah. They're incredible.
And you're not like, oh, hey, it's so and so.
Not at all. Not at all. And it's because they're great. They're really, 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 really good at what they do. And the funny thing is, like, for example, I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head, but the actor who plays Cookie Monster, they all play multiple. Right. But there's a picture of me when I was 2 or 3 at my birthday party with the Cookie Monster cake. And I was like, were you the voice back then? And he was like, yeah, that's me. I was like, oh my gosh, you're the same Cookie Monster from, it is crazy. They're incredibly talented, and it was a very special and bizarre week. Oh boy.
Is there, as you said, you've worked with a ton of folks doing so many projects with the like the Muppets.
Yeah.
Is there a off-the-wall dream project, dream collaboration, if you will, with somebody else out there?
I met Carol Burnett came and saw me in something, and we became friends bizarrely. Yeah, I know, it's cool. It's very cool and very strange. And I was doing a play with Burnett Peters on Broadway, and and Victor Garber, and someone came actually today with a playbill from that performance. And that's how I met Carol Burnett, and she stayed in touch with me. She came to the opening of Tootsie, and she had me sing at a benefit for her years later. And I do want to work with her before it's too late. Otherwise, it's the same. I'm trying to think of other people that I would just kill to work with. I mean, I did a play with Laurie Metcalf. I want to work with her again. I had worked with Courtney B. Vance, years before at the Guthrie Theater, and then he's on this TV show that I'm on. We don't have any scenes together yet, but I'm hoping. I'd say, Carol Burnett is my answer.
I absolutely love Carol Burnett. That was one of the essential television shows that I had to watch, and that was, that was always I still use that to this day whenever I'm trying to communicate to somebody. By the way, we do have a microphone right over here. If you have questions of your own, feel free to start lining up. I know everyone is usually the first, like hesitant to be first. All right, looks like we have some folks over here. Got a race going on over there. Hello, what's your name?
Hello, my name's Steven.
Hi, Steven.
And I wanted to ask, because you articulate so well, moderator, in the beginning about stage and doing voiceover work for movies. There are many good actors now, but the stereotypical is let's get the big name celebrity, which do okay for the roles, but I feel like the unknowns are like the true celebrities of voiceover work. What are your thoughts on that?
That's very kind of you. I will say it's changed a lot, right? 10 years ago, 15 years ago, people who were doing audiobooks were primarily theater, and some very well-known theater actors who do television or do film, but you don't know anything about their personal life. And at a certain point, there was a time when I realized, wait a minute, I'm not going to say who, but why is this very, very famous person, primarily known for being famous, reading an audiobook? And I understand the business, I get it, but I do wish, it is sad to see people who, that was how they were making their livelihoods. There are a lot of those people who are suffering because it's now, they can get anybody, and they do. So
it's just very sad that it's more about making money, which I get as well, and less of the heart of the movie and trying to find the right voice.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the only way that changes is by letting people know that, if people are upset by it or they understand the difference. But the other good thing is there's so much material now that there is more, and there are people who do, everyone finds their way, I guess. But you're right. I mean, it's also, there's a lot of people who make a lot of money off of those projects, and they're going to do whatever they can to get that A-list person because they want to make sure, even though I think the majority of people who go to I have 2 young daughters, and we watch a lot of animated films, and I'm like, why would that person be cast in that part? No one knows that, and no one's going because, so-and-so is playing the elephant. No one is buying a ticket for that. So maybe it'll change when they realize they don't have to be spending the amount of money they had to spend in order to get so-and-so to play that part. I hope.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, my name's Sam.
Hello.
I wanted to ask you, with playing a part that was almost like being on Broadway, but it was a television series, how was that different from actually either having it be a play, or what's the craziest thing where you're like, I shouldn't be doing this, but you had to do it anyway? Like, what's your favorite memory from that?
Are you talking about Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
Yeah.
So I was in a television show, a musical television show called Crazy Ex-Girlfriend on the CW for 2 years. And it's nothing like being in a Broadway show, because in a Broadway show, you have 4 weeks of rehearsal at least, and then you have like a month of previews where you're trying it out and making changes, and you have all of this muscle memory of how you're going to tell the story, and you've all agreed on how you're going to tell it. Television is about expediency. It's about speed at which we can film the scene and get on to the next one because we got to move. So recording those songs, oftentimes were recorded a phrase at a time. Someone came today and asked me to make a video with them of a song that I sang. I don't know it because I only sing it line by line. And, what was it? I'm flying a plane, I fly a plane. That's all I knew. Then we'd stop, and then we'd go to the next phrase. And then the day before we'd film it, I would get the comp, the edit of the vocal that I'd be recording, lip-syncing to, and not know what I'm going to do the day we're filming. So there was a song called I Could If I Wanted To that we did in one, they told me the night before that, or the day before, that they wanted to do it in one take, a oneer. So the whole 3-minute song, we're not going to edit. There's no chance to redo it. And I was up that night, the night before, till like 3 or 4 in the morning. My wife was like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm terrified. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing tomorrow on the set. We have no idea what the choreography was, no idea what the staging was. and I can't mess up the lyrics or we have to start over. That doesn't happen on Broadway. That is terrifying. That was terrifying. So yeah, it's a completely different art form, completely.
Cool. Thanks.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Mohammed. Big fan of your works,
Oh, thank
especially in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. But so when Disney inevitably does the live-action Frozen remake, if you don't come back for it, who would you want to see as Hans?
Well, I'll be 60, so I imagine I won't be in it. Maybe I could be, one of the townspeople. The Italian one who's like, I did something wrong. Who would I want to play Hans? Oh, I don't know. Some kid who probably right now is on Nickelodeon or the Disney Channel. Probably a 12-year-old will be 30 and he'll be perfect. No, I have no idea. I'm excited to find out just like you are.
You mentioned you have 2 kids.
2 daughters.
2 daughters. Do you are they old enough to take to Disneyland?
They haven't. Well, we haven't gone yet. My
Okay, you haven't
daughters.
gone yet.
I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Okay.
So we haven't gone yet, but I do want to take them because when I was a kid, it was a big thing.
Have you seen the Hans meet and greet character that they have at Disneyland?
No, I didn't
Yes.
even know there was
I'll
one.
show you on my phone when we.
I took a photo with the girls playing Anna and Elsa, but they didn't know it was me. They didn't know who I was.
Right.
So I asked specifically, do not tell them who I am. But no, I didn't know. I never saw Hans.
I'll
This is a long time ago. So.
Hi.
My name is Parker. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is one of my favorite shows. Unfortunately, Greg was my favorite guy. Do you have a favorite?
Unfortunately, Greg was
Because
your
of who
favorite
he
guy?
Is, because of who he is as a person.
Oh, I think he's so great.
Sure, he becomes great. Do you have a favorite sitcom?
Seinfeld when I was a kid. I mean, that was the one, or Friends. Those are the ones that we watched. The ones that dates me, but yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Beatrice, but today I'm Makima from Chainsaw Man. Big fan of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Do you have a favorite and a least favorite song, not just sung by you, but overall?
I really liked Settle For Me. I don't think I have a least favorite song. I mean, no, I don't. I don't have a least favorite. I really liked Settle For Me, though. That was actually also timed right at the beginning of filming, and it was also right after I had gotten married, so I have that very vivid memory of that time.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Sherilyn, and I was wondering, with all the different types of media that you've done with audiobooks, Broadway, TV shows, everything, is there a favorite type of thing that you prefer?
Yeah, I mean, lamely, I'm gonna say theater because I know not most actors. I definitely feel that way. I would prefer to be in a straight play, preferably off Broadway if I could, all the time. Hopefully for short runs, because the actors are in complete control over the story. We're editing as we go, and you're not worrying about how is my voice this morning. If you're in a musical for a year on Broadway, it's on your back. You're aware of that constantly. It's a big thing. Film and television are great, but you have nothing to do with the final product. You are not involved in the storytelling. For example, this Grotesquerie television show I just did, they rewrote the last scene I was in the night before I did it, and I had no idea what was happening after, like what's happening after this, and they didn't either because they hadn't written it yet. So they had ideas, but they didn't know. Frozen, for example, I never got a script of, so I just knew the scenes I was in. So to have all the responsibility on stage of telling a story from beginning to end and having to, unite a group of strangers out there, that responsibility, which is so huge and also fun, as an actor on camera, it's not your job. Your job is just to do this amount, you know what I mean? And then someone else is going to spice it together so it looks as if, hopefully. And I get it, but it's also kind of sad, that you lose so much responsibility.
Thank you.
You talk about from beginning to end telling that story on stage. How do you keep that fresh doing a show 8 times a week?
Well, I don't. I get this question a lot. I think. I think it's. I don't. It's not that it's easy to keep it fresh. It's not. But every day is completely different, and no matter if the text is the same and the story is the same, it's going to come out slightly differently. And so, it's really a question of, are you honoring how is it slightly different, and going with that, and also knowing where we have to end up, because that always has to be the same. So I think that's kind of the fun challenge of it. How do I get to do this? Because you can't get it perfectly right. You can't. So to try to is futile. So the fun is getting to breathe life into it and see where it goes. And hopefully, tell the same story that you all agree that you're going to tell.
And I guess the audience is different every single time too.
Every time the audience is completely different. Completely different.
So I think that helps as well.
100%.
I've talked to a lot of actor friends who it's funny because they say that when you ask them what they do, they don't say that they're an actor, they're a professional actor. They say they are a professional auditioner, and occasionally they get to act. What do you do to keep yourself creatively motivated during slow times?
I write also, and I try to stay in touch with the people I know I get and that they get me, and the people that there are a handful of writers who write how I talk, and the second you feel that, you grab onto them because you realize this is rare, and as well as the people who give you the opportunity to tell their story, whether it's a writer or a director. Anytime that goes well, which most of the time for me it has, not always, but most of the time, you keep those people in your life because you want to keep doing what you want to be doing with the people you trust. And there are people out there that you don't want to work with again sometimes because you don't get each other or it's not a good fit. And so when you do have a good fit, you want to hold on to it. So I'm constantly trying to, I was just texting with a writer friend the other day, yesterday, about a screenplay he wrote, and is there a way, maybe we can send it to this producer, we can send it to this producer, constantly trying to see what we can make.
I love that you're just constantly working and not letting yourself fall into those ruts.
I don't know. I would lose my mind. I don't know how people do it. I couldn't just wait. At the Kevin Pollak, the actor, he said, if you're not creating, you're waiting, and I think he's right.
Hi.
Hey, can you share what it's like to film a recording session for Disney, like from start to finish of being in Frozen?
Sure. It's, like I said, 5 days over 2 years. One entire day of those 5 days was just sounds.
And did you get to see any of the other actors or anything?
I recorded this song with Kristen Bell, but otherwise, no. It was just, they asked you to, they hire a reader to read the lines opposite your character. I had 2 friends of mine, Brooke Bloom and Megan O'Neill, were my readers for different sessions. They read the lines, you go through it. Typically, or at least from my experience, and everyone's been different, Jen and Chris, the directors, we read it through the way, and then I read those scenes through as many times, as many ways as I thought it could be read. And then we would go through line by line, and then we would improvise, and then, the next session would be, okay, we rewrote this scene, or we've cut this entire subplot, or we've changed this part of the movie, so now we're going to do a new scene there. And then you do the same process. And when I say sounds, I mean an entire day was, that was an entire day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
When did you realize, was it because especially lately, some Disney films haven't been the mega hits that they maybe expect them to be.
Sure.
When did you realize that Frozen was a mega hit?
I think.
Was it?
I mean, it wasn't before. I mean, they did a screening for us for the cast in LA before the color was done, so it wasn't completely finished.
Okay.
And I think we thought this is really good, but I don't think anybody thought it was going to be as popular as it was. And I remember the premiere, which is larger than life anyway. I still don't think I think when people when Adina was asked to sing "Let It Go" at the New Year's Eve, I think that was like, what's going on? And then the Oscar. I mean, there was a sense of like, oh gosh. And I think when we realized it tricked people so much that multiple times, not just my character, but the ending. I think when we realized, oh gosh, we really got them. Jen and Chris, the writer and directors, really got everybody. I think then we were like, oh gosh. And then it's crazy to have this huge secret when you walk around on the plane here. There's a kid sitting next to me watching Frozen. Yeah. I don't tell them because I don't want to scare them. But it's a bizarre thing. It's just bizarre.
How many half-eaten sandwiches have you been given over?
None.
None?
Today someone
Okay.
came and brought me bread.
Okay.
To take pictures with bread. Yeah, that was the first time.
First time. Well, I think the first of many now that you are going to be hanging out with us here at these shows in the future, I hope. Speaking of the future, are there any upcoming projects that you are allowed to speak about that you have coming up?
There is a cast recording of the a show I did off Broadway with Judy Kuhn, the voice of Pocahontas, last year. It's coming out in February called I Can Get It For You Wholesale. We're waiting to hear about Grotesquerie, if there's going to be a season 2. I have a solo jazz album, which is whole other part of my life that has been going. It's been taking me so long to get this thing done. I'm calling it the eventual album. I don't know when that's coming. And then I have writing projects that are in different stages. So that's
That's awesome. Any last words for our fine folks here in Raleigh before we call it a
No,
night?
just thank you for having me. Pleasure. First time in North Carolina.
First time in North Carolina?
Yeah.
Well, how about to commemorate this occasion, we take a big group selfie here by the stage. So if you guys want to gather up by the stage.